Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Advanced Minecraft with Dr. Zombie. I'm very excited about today's episode because I'm going to be talking about combat and dungeons, where you will undoubtedly experience a lot of combat. Now, rather than try to explain the mechanics of combat while actually showing off fighting a monster, which will of course get me confused and I'll say things wrong, I've designed a series of MS Paint images to explain combat for you, and there you go, my amazing MS Paint skills. Now, each of the monsters that is not a normal creep, like a mob, like a chicken or a cow, something that'll actually hurt you, seems to have the same amount of health, which is, we're estimating in this method, 5 health. I use this number 5 because the lowest damage weapon at your disposal is the arrow. It'll take 5 shots to kill any monster, and anything else that you have at your disposal will do less, kill it in less. For example, the stone sword will dispatch a monster in 4 hits. So if we use the arrow as the lowest common denominator, and we're assuming an arrow does 1 point of damage, that would give a creature 5 health. 4 hits with a stone sword makes it about 1.5 damage each. And I believe if you hit twice with a stone sword and twice with an arrow, it'll kill a monster as well. I know that you can kill a monster with 2 swings of an iron sword and 1 arrow, which would give an iron sword 2 damage, and you can kill a monster in 3 swings of an iron sword as well. And I believe the diamond sword is able to kill a monster in a mere 2 hits. Now, I do mention that the bow and the sword are not your only weapons at your disposal. It might seem like it at first, and I'm not talking about hitting them to death with a shovel. You can always use things like fire. Yeah, kill it with fire. That's a good way to do it. You can also drown enemies, cover them in lava, make them fall from a great height. All of the spectacular ways to destroy things. Now, I'd like to expound a little bit on arrow shooting, because I've noticed on online videos this gives people a little confusion when they want to rapid fire at an enemy. Because what they'll do is they'll shoot 2 arrows at an enemy in rapid succession. The first one will hit, and it creates a sort of half a second, maybe even less, of protective field. This is pretty common in video games, where for the player at least, where if you take damage, you'll bounce for a minute, you won't be able to take damage for just a second or 2, and then you become vulnerable again. It's that way for certain enemies in certain video games as well, and it happens to be true here in Minecraft. It'll create a force shield, and that second arrow will bounce back at you. Now, it won't go very far, the momentum is severely reduced, but if you're standing too close to an enemy and you fire off 6 or 7 shots, you're liable to get hit by one and wonder, what the hell just happened? How did he shoot an arrow back at me? This mechanic, of course, is to prevent you from just bombarding your enemy with tons of shots. Let me see here, I have a picture for that as well. Number 5. There. Oh shit. The bow is not a machine gun, so don't try to use it like one if you're fighting a single monster, and you won't get messed up. Now, before I go in and demonstrate some serious combat, there's something else I wanted to talk about, and I brought it up before briefly, and that is dungeons. And there's a couple ways to find dungeons, and we're going to go over the cheater way. I mentioned the use of cartograph as a way to locate dungeons, and there's really one way to do this. You're going to create a normal map of your world with everything just standard, and what you'll see here, and I'll pull it up for a second, it's just a normal picture, top-down view of your world. And you can see over here I've got my little cubby hole where I've got a little gold marking there. That's like a torch or something that I placed there. That's where I start. Yeah, you can see the other torches I placed when I went on my little journey. That's my main base, and that is all gravel at the top. Now, there's only a couple ways that gravel enters the world. One is that you place it. 2 is that a lava square touches a water square and creates gravel. And 3 is that it belongs to a dungeon. And what you want to do to find that out, I think I already had one open, let me pull that up, is generate a normal world with only block 4. Block 4 happens to stand for gravel. And if you generate a world with just gravel, all you're going to see is the gravel, and here it is. There you go. You can see quite a bit around the world here. And what we've got, you'll notice, this here is the gravel from my main base. There's a couple pieces of gravel here, probably where I built some steps. Same thing down here. But this is not mine. That does not belong to me. That is a dungeon. And you'll notice that there's tons of them in a relatively small area of the world. I haven't, generated a very large map. It's only a couple megs. And you'll notice a few things like this over here. That's probably lava mixing with water. But these are definitely not. Now what you would do is you would overlay this image with the previous one and get something where you could go back and forth between the two and be able to tell roughly where your dungeons are at. I believe, unfortunately, that when I'm zooming in and out here and then I switch, yeah, it zooms back out. So I could just do this, back, forth, and you could tell roughly where you want to dig. I would put myself maybe right around here in this cluster of trees. And what I would do if I was looking to get to a dungeon really quickly is I'd walk on the overworld, I'd put a little X somewhere in gravel, and then I'd be able to see between this image and that image where I was and how close I was. Long story short, spent a little more time on that than I wanted to, but that's how you could find a dungeon by cheating. I mentioned earlier that you can find a dungeon as well by listening for the dark and music, and it just so happens that I've stumbled upon one up here. Now, dungeons are neat because they carry a few items that you cannot craft and cannot find anywhere else. And I'm going to put some torches up on the wall so you can see a little better. Inside this case, now it probably isn't here because I've been messing with it, inside the case is a figure of whatever this dungeon will spawn at a regular interval. And it'll spin around faster and faster and faster until something pops out and attacks me. I happen to know this one is zombies, and I can hear something splashing around somewhere. For whatever reason, it's not spawning now, and it's probably because I went in here, I lit some torches, I looked around. It's now probably too bright to spawn. But what you're going to want to do if you find one of these and you don't want to get attacked is you're going to run in, drop 4 torches around it really fast, and that'll prevent it from doing anything at all. It'll just sit there completely. You can kill off whatever remains, and then the room is yours to loot. You'll notice that there's a box over here, and holy crap, there's a CD. I have never gotten one of these in single player. I've got one in multiplayer, which is kind of a moot achievement because who cares? With multiplayer, the monsters there are kind of weak because you can't kill them. You turn the settings to peaceful, they can't kill you. It's pointless. But this is neat because you can play in a jukebox. And I'll get into that probably in a different video. But I'm going to hold on to that. We also got some gunpowder, 3 buckets, some corn, grain. Great, awesome pull. And then if you're done with that, take the box. It's free. You can use it somewhere else. Since you're bound to find these while you're adventuring in long spats underneath the ground, take the storage container, leave them in the room if you want. You can make this room into your new base. One other thing that you'd really like to know is that this stuff here, mossy cobblestone, only grows, or appears, in the dungeons. So if you find one, you might as well take all the mossy cobblestone you can carry and build something really cool out of it. Everyone will know that you went down and braved the depths and destroyed a dungeon for mossy cobblestone. That's about it. That's really all I had that I wanted to talk about during this episode, was the dungeon, how to locate them using the cartographer and, listening to the music. They're almost always connected to a large cave system, so you're bound to find them accidentally, even if you aren't looking for them. And the mossy cobblestone, I wanted to talk a little bit about combat and how arrows can hit you if you shoot too fast. And as always, if you guys have any questions, things you'd like to see, if I went over something that was confusing to you, or perhaps I said something that you're not familiar with and you want to know more, leave a comment and ask. I'd be happy to spend some time on it. I hope you enjoyed my little MS Paint pictures, and we'll see you next time on Advanced Minecraft.